There are secret entities and organizations that have formed with the sole aim of influencing the masses and controlling the masses. And they do it in very, very evil and pernicious ways and keep us, our children, our families enslaved in their program so they can take advantage of you for their benefit. In today's video, I share with you how they do this, but also how to actually get yourself to wake up from the influence of these external entities and organizations. We are programmed in two ways: internal programming and external programming. Internal programming consists of, let me start with external. External programming consists of what we see in our environment. So when we grow up, we have certain experiences, then we internalize those experiences in a particular way. So for example, if you had an abusive childhood where your parents were very, very strict, you had very high standards set on you, you could internalize that in a way that could either make you successful in life or it could make you an utter failure. Or, maybe you got bullied as a kid. I got bullied as a kid when I was growing up, and I always perceived that to be a good thing. I always internalized that to be a good thing in one particular way. And because of that, when I've gone into different environments, I happen to travel a lot. By the time I was 16, I lived in 4 different continents. And every single time I went to a different school, a new life, it was really difficult because I was always the odd one out. I was different. I had the weird accent. I looked weird. I dressed weird because I wasn't accustomed to the lingo and how things were at that new place. And so as I've started to travel more and more, I've become more like a chameleon, and I've started to become very good at blending in. So I have collected that experience of bullying, and I've always said, oh, this is actually making me better. It's making me more flexible, more adaptable. But someone else could look at that bullying and they could internalize it differently and say, oh, I get bullied because I'm not pretty enough, I'm not lovable enough, I'm not worthy and deserving of love, and because of that, people always mock me and ridicule me. And so you hold that chip on your shoulder for the rest of your life. A lot of people who get bullied, they perceive it really well to the point where it makes them really successful. Like Elon Musk, he got bullied to the point where he got his face beaten in. He was programmed by that experience of bullying to become someone who is wildly successful, to do what it takes, and he has immense confidence in himself, and he's not afraid of confrontation. That is how we get programmed externally. We have certain experiences, but then we hold on to these experiences in accordance with our propensity for how we've been brought up. On the other hand, there is an internal programming that happens that's not up to us. It's not within our control. And this is where nature versus nurture, or I should say nature and nurture, comes into play. So most people think it's either nature or nurture, but it's not. It's both. Our nature, how we are, is how we've been programmed karmically. Every single person, and the yogis knew this, we have this type of karma called the prarabdha karma. It's the allotment of karma that gets activated in this lifetime. And so the reason certain children, certain babies are more, crazy and hyperactive and just very energetic and have a very wild personality. You can tell a child how they will be growing up when you look at their personality as a baby, right? Before any kind of personalities have been programmed into them. So we have a natural tendency to adopt a certain set of behaviors and a certain type of personality, and even attract a certain set of experiences into our lives based on our prarabdha karma. So this prarabdha karma gets activated in this lifetime, which, surprisingly, also makes us, the soul, inhabit this particular body, right? Be born in this womb at this particular time, because it believes that this is the perfect time, perfect circumstance, perfect womb to be born in, so that it can fulfill its ultimate destiny, which is to burn this karma. So all karma wants to be worked out, according to the yogis. And so that's how we get programmed internally. We have a nature that then gets nurtured. And just because you have been born a particular way doesn't mean you can't change it, because you still collect karma throughout your life, okay? You build karma. In society, there's always going to be entities that form spontaneously to try and program you. These entities are called pendulums, and a pendulum is simply a group, people who resonate at one particular frequency. So think religious group, think sports teams. When crowds come together, sometimes they just get into a riot and something happens to trigger a mass event of violence. It just happens. And sometimes after the event, when you ask the people why they engaged in this kind of behavior, they don't know why they did that. They just got drunk in the heat of the moment. That's when their consciousness was hijacked by the pendulums. When you fall asleep, the pendulum takes your energy and makes you do what it wants you to do. And so just like that, within our society, everything around us is tailored to making us more and more comfortable and more unconscious. Because when we're unconscious, these elites or the pendulums, they can extract our attention and monetize them for their profit. There was a quote by John Rockefeller who said, "I don't want a nation of thinkers. I want a nation of doers." And that's why the schooling system is the way that it is, where it trains children to grow up and become really good doers and really bad thinkers, right? So how many times have you seen kids go to college and still not know what they want in their lives? They're not sure about what it is they want to pursue. We all feel lost. No one teaches us how to get clear on what we want. They always spoon feed us and keep us enslaved to their programs. Just do what your teacher tells you. Just do what your college professor tells you. Just do what your boss tells you, until one day you just get to the age of 60, 65, your bones are achy. You're like, I don't know what the fuck I want to do with my life. Like, I don't know what I've done. I don't know where the past 60 years have gone. This is how the pendulum hijacks you and gives you this false sense of security to keep you stuck in that toxic, that poison drip. You know, you keep getting it, but it's like, it's too uncomfortable to break free of because you don't know. The uncertainty is too uncomfortable. We're more afraid of the unknown, even though the unknown contains possible bliss and paradise, because we know that this 9 to 5 is just going to keep us safe. So just stay safe, just stay alive, just keep swimming. And then one day you'll just drop dead and live a miserable existence. It takes a special kind of person during a special time to wake up, become conscious, and take matters into their own hands and say, you know what? I'm sick and tired of living this comfortable existence of following the rules and doing what was expected of me by my parents, by my society. I want to follow my own path, the thing that I've always wanted to do, but I've always put it on the back burner. And that's when you step into the uncertainty, and you feel every single day you don't know what's going to come tomorrow. If you are feeling this way right now, it means you're free from the influence of pendulums. The influence of pendulums makes you feel like, oh, I'm taken care of, it's okay. But then you have this underlying feeling of anxiety anyways. It's these feelings of anxiety, fear, pride, ego that keep you stuck in the pendulum's influence. When you gain courage, when you get to the level of courage. So there's different consciousness levels. And David R. Hawkins did a great job at outlining the map of consciousness. I'll put one up here. In it, there's a neutral level of 200 that is courage, but then there's levels slightly below that, the level of fear, the level of shame, the level of guilt, the level of pride. At these levels, at anger, fear, and pride, we have the optimal amount of energy that the pendulums can begin to control us. When you look at the news, it keeps you in fear. Or when you look at the news about what's happening, it keeps you in anger. It keeps you in pride to fight for your country. All of these things the pendulums use to mobilize us. But surprisingly though, when you get to the level of shame and guilt and apathy, you don't have enough energy to move. You don't have energy to be moved into action. So the pendulums actually don't want you at apathy. That just happens as a byproduct of you getting into lower and lower levels of consciousness. But then once you increase your level of consciousness and you're able to reach the neutral point of courage, all of a sudden you can break free of the pendulum's influence and walk your own path. And so that is the goal for every single individual, to break free from the pendulum's influence. What really needs to happen is consciousness. You must become conscious and aware of what you're doing and where you are at all times. And just get into the mode of observing and watching rather than mindlessly scrolling social media, mindlessly watching television, or trying to escape the feeling that's arising within you. A lot of the times what we do is we have this feeling of anxiety and fear and like just something uncomfortable arising within us. Instead of being with it, we're trying to run away from it in food, in online adult material, in television, in scrolling Instagram or social media. We're trying to run away from something that's waking up within us instead of running through it to the other side, because it's just too painful to be dealt with. And when we run away from it and it festers underneath, that's when the pendulums can come in and hook onto that and influence you. Unfortunately, there are people out there who do know what they're doing, exactly what they're doing, elite societies. And, this has been the case since the dawn of mankind. Emperors used to do this with their messengers. with people in court who would just get up and deliver this message and get people all riled up and excited for the country. Since the dawn of mankind, there has been tribes, empires, kings who have sought to deceive the masses just to keep them safe, just to make the sheep stay docile. And this happened during slavery too. During the days of slavery, nowadays, if you know the concept of soul food, I recently learned this. Soul food is made with high carb and high fat content. And what they would do back in the day is feed the slaves at the end of the day, at the end of the hard work day. They would feed the slaves food that is high in carbohydrates and high in fat because it would get you bloated and it would just make you very docile. You would be very lethargic after eating that, so you wouldn't have energy to revolt. And that is what all kingdoms have wanted to do. And they've done it in many different ways. If you look at the food we're being fed right now, if you look at the content we're being shown on television, if you look at TikTok in China is like versus what TikTok in America is like, they're showing educational content on TikTok to Chinese children, as opposed to in America, we're having these mindless dance videos that people stay hooked on for ages. These are the subtle ways in which the pendulums influence us, and they keep us enslaved to their programs. And it takes a special kind of person. It is difficult. It takes a special kind of person to say, no, I refuse this quick hit of dopamine. I'm creating something much greater in my life. It's like being stuck in the matrix. Once you hear about freedom, our highest being, our highest selves have been designed to thirst for the infinite. And so the finite will never be enough. So when you buy a house, you still want a bigger house. When you make money, you still want to make more money. You want to go from 1 million to 2 million to 3 million. Within us, there's always a thirst for the infinite. But unfortunately, we seek it in finite things, right? So our soul longs to be one with God or the source that it came from. But we seek it in drugs, we seek it in money, we seek it in women, or men, or whatever it is, whatever your addiction is. We don't look within, we always look outside. And so it's just an error to focus on something that will never fully fulfill you. Instead, what we're really longing for is to look within to become one with divine. And that's why the Buddha said, rare it is to be born as a human, rarer it is to have heard of enlightenment. And once you hear about enlightenment, and if you're watching this video, you probably have heard about enlightenment. Very, very few people have even heard about this concept of enlightenment. And rarer still is it to be in pursuit of the highest of enlightenment. And so they say, when you become enlightened, when you truly become one with divine, then all of this, the illusion drops. You no longer seek it in the outside. You have unending bliss and pleasure within. You have become one with the true source of life. So if you'd like to learn how to truly break free from the matrix to create your own reality, one concept you have to understand is how to wake up. Have you ever woken up in a dream and you realize that you could control it? That is lucid dreaming. In your dream, you wake up and you realize you're dreaming. What would happen if you woke up in physical reality to realize that this too is a dream? This isn't the highest level. I'm dreaming. So when you have that reference point that is above reality, just as waking up in a dream is the reference point above dreaming, what is the reference point of waking up above reality? That is when you learn to center your attention. So I made a comprehensive video teaching you how to center your attention. All you need to do is click right here to learn the 3-step exercise to center your attention and to wake up in physical reality.